So
Yeah.
Adriana works with me, and she helped Liz with her new podcast series called Boy Problems. But Adriana, for people who are just joining, Adriana.
This is like an analogy for my life, like coming out of like the background.
Okay, so Adriana, this is a funny story, and it actually tells you to like
Yes, there's a
to be
lesson.
persistent and
Yeah.
go after what you want.
Mhm.
So Adriana went to Notre Dame. She was writing her thesis about me, which I thought was so flattering. She tried to get in touch with me to interview me for her thesis. Her thesis was called
Katie Couric's career in shifting perceptions of femininity and broadcast journalism.
So Adriana grew up watching the Today Show, and we
As
developed
we all did.
a pretty serious parasocial relationship. So anyway, Adriana called someone who knew a producer, my friend Deirdre, who worked at 60 Minutes as a producer. Deirdre had a friend. Adriana's friend knew this mom. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. She called Deirdre. Deirdre asked me, would you be willing to have Adriana interview you for her thesis? And of course, I was like, that's so flattering. Yes, she can interview me for her thesis. And my assistant at the time, who's lovely and wonderful, her name is Beth Damage. She now works at Netflix. And she said, you don't want to do this. What are you, crazy? Like, you don't want to just be interviewed by this girl. She was trying to protect me, because
Sure, of course. You're
say
busy.
yes to,
Yeah.
I say yes to too many things. And I said, oh, come on, Beth. It's a half hour or whatever. So Adriana landed in New York, and she was coming to the Notre Dame football game
At Yankee Stadium.
And her phone starts blowing up because she said she was going to be in New York. I said, come over to my apartment while you're in New York and you can interview me. And she was so funny. She was so nervous and nerdy. And she was like, hi. So anyway, we sat in my den and she interviewed me, and it was really cute, and she recorded it. And so then as she was graduating, I was looking for an assistant, and I was looking for someone to help me as a researcher for my book. And I said, Adriana, you know more about me than I do, because she spent, time writing this thesis. I said, would you like to move to New York and you can help me with my book? And so that's how we met. And isn't that funny? And now she's still working with me, and she produced Liz's podcast, and she's grown from being a researcher on my book to then she was my assistant, bless her heart, poor thing. And then now she's a producer doing all kinds of things and working on some documentaries and working with Liz. And I'm trying to help her grow and have all kinds of great experiences, which is really the point of this company that my husband and I did, Liz, is to let people come. First of all, journalism, it's really hard to get a job now in journalism because all these places are shrinking, but also to just be exposed to all different aspects of the business and figure out what you love to do, and hopefully give people an opportunity to learn and grow.
Yes. We love that story. We love Adriana. Asking for an interview to working for the person pipeline is actually not as rare as you think that it is. And the best advice I got when I moved to New York was from Susan McPherson, who I think you might know too.
Oh, yeah.
And she said, give 3 times the amount that you ask. Because when you don't know anyone, I moved to New York, I didn't know anybody, I would ask for things, right? Oh, can you connect me with this? Or, oh, could I get an invite for this? And she made me realize, no, you offer, right? And the busiest person, the person that you look up to the most, they need the most amount of help. Like, I'm sure there's so many things that you are looking for in terms of hiring, right? Like, and finding the right person is really difficult. And so if there's things that if there's a person that you admire and that you love, offer to do things for them. And again, I'm not saying indefinitely and like do things for free for the rest of your life, but you would be surprised the amount of times that will turn into paid work and meaningful work.
Yeah. I don't understand what you just said.
No? Wait, working for free?
Wait.
I got it.
What?
Like Liz, I'm tracking.
Okay, everyone, I'm a little jet
Katie's
lagged,
jet
to
lagged.
be honest with you.
Katie's jet
I'm a
lagged.
little jet lagged, and I don't know, I'm a little slow. But what did Liz just say?
Like,
what did she mean?
Basically, do what Adriana did, right? Like, go and write the email, cold email the person that you admire and that you respect, and then offer to show how good you are and offer what you can do for them, as
Show
opposed to
them
like
your
trying to
value.
ask for
Rather
things.
you showing, but you didn't show me your value.
Well, she showed you how much she knew about you. You were like, you know more about me than I know about myself,
That's
and you
true.
saw.
That's true.
And so
Okay.
suddenly I went from being like a asking, mooching off of you to like, I have this wealth of information. I can give it to you for your memoir, which turns into, you should help me write my memoir. Sorry.
Okay.
No, also, we
Adriana,
don't.
would you like to be a part of this? You just do this.
No.
That's right. Instead of me.
Okay.
Anyway,
No.
it's interesting because I spent yesterday, or actually Sunday, I
Yeah.
was with another person who I really love named Brittany Jones Cooper. By the way, if you want, do you
Yeah.
know Brittany?
Wait, the name is so familiar.
So Brittany, when I went to CVS, I decided I wanted to hire an intern and I wanted to give somebody who had absolutely zero connections. I get so sick of like, oh, his father went to Yale with your father,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, all these
Yeah.
connections. And so I said, I want to help somebody who has zero connections in the business. So I asked people to send me videotapes. Anyway, Brittany sent me a tape. So I hired her. She's from Omaha, Nebraska. I love her. She
Mm.
came to CBS. Anyway, she's done all these things and she just finished a night uh, it's called a night blodgett, a fellowship at Columbia, which
Oh.
combines business and journalism. So we spent Sunday. It was really fun, like brainstorming about
Mhm.
different things that she could do. And I had so much fun, like thinking about ideas and then connecting her with people. And I get a lot of pleasure from doing stuff like that because she was getting very disheartened because journalism is hard now.
Yeah. What's your advice for a person who wants to get into journalism now, given the state of the industry?
Well, I feel like local news in certain areas is starting to really bubble up and explode. And, I was just talking to another, I don't know why I've just been talking. Brittany and I called another former assistant of mine, Lauren Mitchell, who I love, who lives in Chicago. And she and her husband, Ryan, met when they were working at the Today Show. Ryan was a
Mm.
researcher and Lauren was my assistant. Anyway, they live in Chicago now, and Ryan is a great person, as is Lauren. But Ryan is now working part time at this local news operation that's kind of a community news organization. And they just got a grant from Google News. Anyway, my point is there is a lot happening in the local news space. Like Andy
Mhm.
Lack started Mississippi Today. Andy Lack used to be the
Oh, I
president
didn't know
of
that.
NBC News.
Yeah.
Andy did their investigative reporting. They won a Pulitzer at
Um,
Mississippi Today, the Texas Tribune. I think you should think local and really just write, and get on Substack and just write as much as you can. If you're interested in radio, I don't know, if you still love it and you really want to do it, there are ways to do it.
yeah.
It is just and I think in some ways it's easier than ever because you don't have to necessarily work for an organization. You can
Mhm.
be like you are, Liz, an
Yeah.
independent journalist doing your own thing and like we built at our company. And um I think you just have to I really believe what Malcolm Gladwell says. You have to do
Yeah.
10,000 hours of something to get good at it. So I
Mhm.
think part of it is just doing it and doing it and doing it.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, I mean, what advice do you give to young people who want to get into journalism? Uh-oh. This is freezing.
Okay. Sorry. I
That's
got a
okay.
phone call and it like what would be I think that's a really good. First of all, I think you of all people in journalism have adapted so well to every new wave. And I literally can't think of someone who's been. I mean, you are like. I mean, saying you're the Oprah of journalism doesn't even. You're the Katie Couric of journalism. Like it's, but you have really been so good at really being learning how these different platforms work. And you also like when I see the things that you put out, whether it's your personal comments or what you're putting out, in terms of Katie Couric Media, it is just one of the few sources of journalism and I think voices in journalism that feel like they make sense to me. Like I never see one of your headlines and I'm like, what is going on there? Right? Like in the way that even though I really respect a lot of people that worked at the New York Times and at, large newspapers, I'll just find that there's a lot of bias, that there's a lot of, again, you just head scratching where you're like, how could you put out something like this? So I really, really admire everything that you do. And when I think about the state of journalism, I think it's a really exciting time. Like you've interviewed Aaron Parnas. Aaron Parnas has a bajillion followers. I think he's the most followed on political Substack. He has millions of followers across platforms, and he doesn't even own a ring light. Okay. He has zero budget. Obviously, it's not to say that he didn't, he has education and he comes from a certain family and like there's things obviously that are helpful. And I'm not sort of, taking that away or saying that there's no obstacles but that being said, the barrier to entry is actually very low right now. And the discoverability is really high. Like Instagram 10 years ago, there was no explore page. Like you had to build like your Instagram following brick by brick, and you still do, obviously. But I think TikTok has really changed. I mean, Instagram's trying to be like TikTok. There's always like that. There's always, other social platforms competing with each other can actually sometimes benefit users in the sense that the Instagram algorithm now is really like aiming for showing your reels and showing your content to new audiences. And so the ability to grow and reach new people if you create really good content is actually like, this is a really good time for that.
That's true. I think what's hard though, Liz, is,
and
I don't know how I interviewed Aaron. I don't know how he monetizes what he's doing. Do you? I mean, Aaron, like he graduated from college when he was like 11. I'm kidding. But when he was really young and went to law school at GW. And by the way, I wonder, like that guy never sleeps because he's just,
I know.
and it's, he's keeping up with
He works
developments
hard.
that are happening at such breakneck speed.
Yeah.
It's exhausting. Sometimes I'm like, God, I wonder if his wife like wants to hit him over the head with a frying pan sometimes and like, get off your
I asked him about it. Do you want to know? I don't even, I mean, I don't think this is private information. He works from like 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day. And I said, what is do you have a girlfriend? Like, and she's a lawyer. And so she works really hard too, but he doesn't work on weekends.
Aren't they married? Aren't they married?
Oh, maybe they are married.
I think they're married.
Anyway, his long-term partner or wife, and they just both work a lot. And then I was like, damn, so you must work every weekend. He's like, no, I actually take the weekends off. And that gave me hope, but again, if you work your butt off, I think there's a way to do it. Like, it's not, it's not, it's not, again, I think, well, anyway, this like, I could go on and on.
Paul is saying subscriptions. Yeah.
Subscriptions.
I'm sure.
Yeah. He makes a lot of money with subscriptions. He makes TikTok there's a creator fund. And again, it's not great, but if you have millions of people seeing your content and the videos are longer than a minute, you do get money. So no, he's making good money.
Good. He's making good bank, as the kids would say.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing interesting, and I've talked to like friends of mine in more traditional media.
Yeah.
Because I'm actually trying to develop a documentary on what has happened to journalism and the news business and how it has really changed and how it's so critical for a democracy to have a free press and, obviously corporate stuff that's going on at ABC and CBS. Anyway, so what was I talking about, Liz?
Yeah, you wanted to make a documentary about...
No, wait.
About the state of news.
I was talking to a friend recently.
Money?
Oh, yeah. And we were saying a lot of these social media creators, for everybody shitting on mainstream media, they depend on a lot of mainstream outlets to get their information and then to report it. It's not like they're on the scene, it's on the ground. It's not like they're, sometimes, I asked the Midas Touch guys about this. And they said, we do some original reporting, but a lot of it isn't original reporting. Although, in fairness, they can watch the C-SPAN feeds. They can see what's going on at press conferences and all that stuff. So they can write directly from an event. But sometimes they're reporting what other outlets have reported. So I think it just it underscores the importance of more traditional media.
Mhm.
And I think we need it all, to be honest, especially at
Yeah.
this moment in our history and what's happening in our country and the shit show
Yeah.
that is the Trump administration.
Yeah, how do you keep hope? Because I know we have, like, 7 minutes left. I feel like you,
Well,
again,
does any
are
well,
what?
does
Or ask
anybody have any
questions. Yeah, ask
questions?
questions to Katie because she is jet lagged, so she has to go in, like, 5 minutes. So give us everything. We can do a lightning round. But yeah, how do you keep hope? Because you're like the nicest woman in news. Like you're the nicest person in news, and I think it's a really
No, I'm not.
it's
I'm not
hard.
that nice, Liz. Ask Adriana.
Oh my God, what do you say?
What? I'm nice most of the time, but like I'm
Also,
human.
people are asking Adriana to come into the come
Oh,
into
Adriana,
the
your
frame.
audience
You're
is
being demanded.
Okay,
yeah.
tell the people that I'll come back.
She'll
Adriana's
come
also
by
our Gen
next
Z
week.
correspondent. She's many things, but one of her many hats is being a Gen Z correspondent. So tell us if anything we're saying is totally off.
You got
Yeah.
it, sister.
Okay. Anyway, well, while we get any
Yeah.
questions from your folks, I don't know. I get very disheartened and disgusted and disillusioned and all those other D words that mean same thing. But I also feel like I was just talking to Ava DuVernay, and I
Mhm.
feel like so many people are feeling this way. It makes me feel like I'm not alone.
Yeah.
And I also feel as a journalist or as someone who tries to help people synthesize and understand what's happening, I feel a renewed sense of purpose
Mm,
to try to cover these stories as best I can. Sometimes, honestly, I have to realize I don't work for a big news organization, and I want to do it all, and I want to cover it all, and and we're just a small team, and I
yeah.
have to be more realistic. But I try to do the best job I can, kind of pointing out things that are happening, and it's just hard, Liz, because every day is a new outrage and
Yeah.
something to be upset about and angry about.
Mhm.
So I don't think it's really good for your mental health to just be in this state of heightened anxiety
Yeah.
24/7. So I try to take a break. I try, I love my friends. I like to do fun things. And I've always been very good at compartmentalizing. I
Mm,
think that's really an undervalued skill. Like when my husband was sick, I would have to go on the Today Show and, talk
mm,
about like the latest in genes and, all the cooking and obviously do serious interviews as well, but I'm able to kind of focus on the here and now. So I think, but that wasn't the question. It was what gives me hope. I think it's just like, I really believe people are essentially good. I think there
yeah.
are a lot of bad people, and I'm not being Pollyannish about it, but I do think that most people are compassionate, care about other people, uh, that they're open minded and open hearted. And I think it's the loudest, angriest, loneliest people who are
Yeah.
out there, hell bent on destruction
Mhm.
and hate. And so I don't know, I just have a lot of faith in people, and that gives me hope that this is a moment in time that requires our attention and vigilance,
Mhm.
but that it's not going to defeat us.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I mean, that's what I hope and pray, and I have to feel that way because I wanna stay engaged, and I
Mhm.
don't wanna kind of, like, throw up my hands and say it's over, so
Yeah.
I don't know. How about you?
I love that. I love that. I feel very similar to you where I do think people are fundamentally good and again we've been under this we were talking about this on a live yesterday, but Donald Trump has been the most significant political figure of the last decade. There's just no, getting away
I would
from
say
that.
of the last of a generation, if you wanna be in
100%. 100%. And so it's, wait, what was I gonna? Well, was I gonna brain fog? Oh my God, it's contagious. I'm getting jet lag just from being an empath with Katie. No, but that basically 10 years ago, right? And during 2016, it was like, oh, deplorables, and like these people are grotesque, and I think now I see people as victims. I'm sure it's in your feed too. I saw a man who lost his Medicaid, who's disabled, who voted for Trump, right? And there's a part of you that wants to go, see, I told you so. But there's a bigger part of me that goes, oh my God, like that must be really painful. And you must be in pain to have um been, or not in pain, but like to have been lied to, right? And
or
manipulated,
so you
and
must have felt hopeless, right?
exactly. And so again, it doesn't mean, and I think that's a much better place to interact with other people too. I think that's not just how it makes me feel better going through the world, but I think that makes my impact on the world probably more productive, because I am entering the conversations from that part, or from that angle. And so, yeah, but I love what you said, having faith in people. I think that's really beautiful. And that's really at the core of, if you identify the progressive, in 2025, like that's at the root of it. Okay. So before we lose you, do you think that Trump is on the Epstein list? Yes or no?
Yes. I mean, how else can you explain this?
Yeah.
I'm not as obsessed with it as a lot of
Mm,
people are. Like it seems to be, and I think this is something that a lot of Trump supporters are really upset about. That Pam Bondi said she was going to reveal it, and now suddenly she's
done.
not. And as Peter Ducey, finally,
Yeah. The
somebody
hero
said
over
like
time.
he asked a good question, and I just don't. I can't think of any other explanation for them not putting it
Yeah.
out. I think it probably is a really interesting list of figures. Can I talk about? Okay, never mind.
Oh, okay. Next time.
I've got my my PR agent here,
Right.
manager, saying what I can and cannot talk about. But
Mhm.
anyway, what else and you guys have no questions? I
Well,
mean,
people wanted to know. There was a really good, a good question about, if for a young person starting, how would you establish your brand as a journalist?
I think that's not what you should think about as much,
Mm,
although maybe you have to in this day and age. I think that developing an area of expertise is really valuable right now
yeah.
because, it's the end of monoculture. That's my new favorite word. I've said it like four times today.
No, like 40.
40, sorry. But, I think it's really about niche
Yeah.
expertise. And, for example, I've been following a couple of doctors and PhD, like research scientists who are really debunking a lot of the stuff that RFK Jr. is saying. So if you have
Hmm.
an area of passion or expertise, I think that you can develop and then share that expertise. I think that is so needed and appreciated by consumers who are looking for fact-based information. So that would be one area of advice. Like if you like science and medicine, like become a medical expert and really
Yeah.
develop that. Similarly, if you like, if you're really interested in environmental issues, or
Hmm.
if you're really interested in, I mean, fashion. I mean, if whatever like
Sure.
floats your boat, or if you're really interested in movies, and I don't know, I feel like that's probably good advice.
Yeah.
I think it's harder to be kind of a generalist in this day and age. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
I've always been. And then I developed some expertise in cancer because of my husband,
Hmm.
and I had to really learn and understand cancer and science and therapies and different approaches and how cancer operated. And
Yeah.
so I have a little sort of mini expertise in that. But that's what I would say if you're a young person. And then find a mentor, find somebody who's going to help
Yeah.
you develop and and really care about you. I think that's invaluable. Don't you, Liz?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I would add, find the niche and then tie it to the news, right? Like I remember taking a class, it was sort of an op-ed writing, sort of workshop when I first moved to New York. And one of the things that they stressed was, again, for an op-ed, you could have a great idea, right, for an opinion piece. But if it's not tied to something that's happening, it's
Right.
just less likely to be taken by an editor. And I think now more than ever with social media, I think about this even with my Substack and with my writing. Sometimes there are things, I'll have an experience, I'll go on a bad date and I'll be like, oh my God, I want to talk about this thing. And I kind of make myself wait sometimes until something happens in a movie or, a sort of conversation that people are having on Love Island or in government, right? In sort of politics and culture to sort of peg whatever have expertise or I've been thinking about to something that people are already talking about. And especially
That's
now with
smart.
the
I think you're
algorithms.
right.
Yeah,
That's
and
good
often,
advice connected to the news. The other thing I was going to
yeah.
say, and I think you've been a great example of this, Liz, is you have to be very nimble today, right?
Mhm.
I think I saw early on, it didn't take by the way, I'm not like, it didn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. I saw the migration of news and
Yeah.
information going from television, like appointment viewing, evening news, whatever, even the Today Show, local news. I saw that this vast, endless amount of real estate was going to house news and information in the
Mhm.
future. And I remember being at CBS and I used to tell them, please, can we do more stuff digitally? Can we
Yeah.
build up what we're doing online? And and they used to look at me like I was insane. But I think you have to kind of constantly be aware of how things are changing, and for example, you have to figure out, and I haven't done this very well myself, so do what I say and not what I do, but understand what AI means, what it's going to do, how you can use it,
Yeah.
how you can marshal the power of AI because it's not going anywhere. And I think we all have to figure out selfishly how to make it work for us.
Yeah.
And then, but Liz, I think you've worked for various media entities and you haven't been afraid to take leaps and to do different things. And I think in this day and age, I remember giving a commencement address probably 10 years ago where like it said the average graduate was going to have 14 different jobs in their lifetimes or work 14 different
Eh.
places. And now it's probably even higher. So I
Oh my
think you
God.
have to always kind of be aware of all the changes that are happening so that you can then I think adaptability is incredibly important in any
100.
profession now because things are changing so quickly. Oh, my internet connection is something.
Oh, we lost you for a minute, but you're back.
Okay,
Um,
sorry.
no, but it was, I totally got what you were saying. And I think it's true, right? It's just, again, having been in media, with you, I know you've been through it too of the last 10 years of just like it feels like every 6 months there's a new thing, right? Like
Right.
sometimes I'll remember Periscope, remember
Yeah.
Clubhouse, right? That was the big
Yeah.
thing that was going to change media completely. And then, I see them as these sort of rafts, like we're all just jumping on one raft. And then, but it is, a game of, I mean, the life is uncertain. And I think the more you can actually embrace uncertainty, the kinder uncertainty will be to you. The more you try and cling to something and making something your whole, oh, if I do this way and I'm going to, I often think just post the bad video, write the bad, article, write the shitty draft, right? I think that really applies to life and it applies to content. And again, coming back to Aaron, because when I met, I hung out with him at VidCon a couple weeks ago. It was just really interesting. Yeah, like he was like, I don't have a ring light. I don't, I don't. He doesn't use AI. He doesn't use anything. He just kind of puts out things, and he's not necessarily overthinking it. He's not trying to make it perfect. And I think that's, in a way, sort of being creative and being an artist, is putting out stuff and seeing what sticks, like throwing spaghetti on the wall.
Well, that's
And so
true. And Chris
yeah,
Hayes wrote that book.
yeah,
I forget what it was called, but I interviewed him on my podcast.
yeah,
And one of the things he said that I thought was really interesting is that Democrats don't realize, like, they just have to get out there and be a part of the
Yeah.
conversation that that I think people who are super cautious and careful, they don't realize how ephemeral the
Yeah.
environment is now and how
Mhm.
you can say something and it's gonna be replaced by something else the next
So
hour.
true.
And I think
Mhm.
this idea that that everything you have to say, to your point, has to be perfect.
Mhm.
I just don't think that's really the case anymore.
It's
Because
not.
there's so much stuff out there, it doesn't really matter as much.
Exactly, and that is should be liberating. Again, it can feel overwhelming, like, "Oh my god, there's so much out there and there's so much," but it does mean that if you say something stupid, people will forget because, someone else will say something stupid, in a second later,
Unless I say
and
something stupid and then people don't forget.
no, you never say anything stupid. Like, I
Oh,
can't think of a single thing in your multiple decade of career in journalism. Um, but you
Adriana's
said
like, well, because he's about to be like, here are all the things I
here's all the stupid things I've said, Liz. No, we're not gonna share those.
well, have you
Let's not
ever
review
okay,
that.
have you ever made a mistake that was a really big learning for you and changed how you did things
Oh, yeah.
in
Yeah.
journalism?
Yes. I mean, I'm gonna tell the wait, why not?
I don't know what you're gonna say, so
Okay.
go crazy, I guess.
Well, I
You
wrote
guys can
about
read
this.
each other's minds.
I wrote about this in my memoir, everyone. I I said a stupid comment to a transgender person I interviewed on my talk show, which was taped, and then my producer said, "Do you want to take that out?" And I said, "No, I think I want to use it as a teachable moment because if someone like me who's
Yeah.
fairly, well read or knows what's going on could ask a stupid question like that and the person explained why it was offensive, I want other people to understand and I don't mind using myself as an example of someone who makes a mistake.
Mm,
Anyway, and so that was a learning experience because I just got eviscerated for it. And then I went on and did a documentary about called Gender Revolution about our changing notion of gender identity, which is
yeah,
was really a concept that was very hard for someone of my generation to kind of adjust to. Like,
yeah.
I grew up in a very binary pink and blue culture.
Mhm.
And I think I used that experience of making that mistake and being embarrassed about it
Yeah,
to kind of educate myself and to become a better person and more educated and more um, you know, just more understanding
yeah,
of something that I didn't understand and had a hard time comprehending. So that was a real learning experience for me. And what it was painful to be criticized. I was
mhm,
asking somebody about gender confirmation surgery before I even understood kind of the terminology that was
yeah,
appropriate. And anyway, it was painful, but ultimately I'm glad that as painful as it was, that I kept it in the
yeah.
episode and that I learned from it and grew from it and, hopefully became a better person because of it.
And probably people watching it, many people became better people as a result of seeing that too. I'm sure you got many, or I don't know when, if DMs
This was like in
existed.
2014, I think, or
Okay, so
2013.
I'm sure yeah, there were a lot of people who watched that, being like, "Oh, now I know what to say," or "Now I know, how to approach this
Or
conversation,"
yeah, or
or
what's
I
appropriate. Yeah.
yes, or again, I made that mistake and I, can forgive myself, for that, because yeah, this person I admire and respect also made that mistake. Yeah, there's just so little. I mean, it's sort of a feature I think of our culture right now. It's just we're all so curated, we're all so, whatever, filtered and right and
Well,
we've
see,
never had.
Sarah McBride, I
Yeah,
got to know Sarah McBride when I
mhm,
did this documentary, and she's a wonderful person, so smart and so kind. And I didn't listen to it yet, but many people have told me about a conversation she had with Ezra Klein,
okay,
that I want to listen to. And Sarah was actually, I think she takes a very different approach about
Yeah.
helping people get there,
Hmm.
instead of berating people or humiliating them, giving them a little bit of grace
Yeah.
to kind of evolve into a person who is more accepting and understanding. And anyway, I'm anxious to listen to it because I think sometimes we are so harshly critical of people who maybe haven't reached a level of self-actualization or understanding that we have, and that a little bit of grace can sometimes be in order.
Yeah, and they haven't reached the level that you're at right now, but you were where they were at, right now, but in a, 2 years ago or 5 years ago, right? I think we just yeah, there's a lot of self-righteousness, in some of our positions. And again, it's coming from a place of because we're flooded with so much information and so much it comes with a lot of yeah content that is transphobic, that's horrible, that makes us angry, but yeah, when we're approaching these conversations, obviously,
Well, there's some, yeah, and I'm
yeah,
I'm just
having that
talking,
grace.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, there's a difference between that and somebody who just
Oh,
is
actively, right.
has not been exposed and doesn't really
Yeah.
understand. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's a
But
difference in
CS says
intention.
grace with a thumbs up.
Yes. No, and a lot of people say they loved your documentary,
Thank
and,
you. That means
um
so much to me. I've had so many
yeah.
families come up to me and say, that was so helpful. I mean, I took I I did it from a position of being a student and wanting to
Mhm.
learn and understand. And as a result, I think I took people along on this journey of curiosity
Mhm.
and compassionate inquisitiveness, if
Yeah.
you will. And 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 I think as a result people felt like they were next to me learning alongside me, which
Yeah.
I think is a really effective way to help people understand complicated and maybe foreign concepts, right?
Yeah. And you're so beloved, I think for that reason, Yeah, like, in a way, you have always had I know brand is you don't like that word, but, like, you've always had the personality of being very vulnerable and being very relatable and being very real, and obviously that's always been in, but, coming back to people who are looking for advice of, like, how to show up, like, show up in that way, but that kind of vulnerability, talking about mistakes, talking about, not just again, wanting to show up when you feel like you've learned everything perfectly or you've done everything perfectly. I think people
Yeah.
are craving that authenticity, and I love your authenticity. I know millions of people do, and yeah, my encouragement would be, yeah, for people to all be able to be authentic in the way they show up too.
Right on.
Right on. Okay, we'll let you go to sleep.
No, no, no. I know. I wake up at 2:30 in the morning. I'm like, doing. I just
Oh,
got back. I took a trip overseas, everyone, and I was just saying that I just got back on Sat. Don't they say it takes a day for every week you were gone? Or what is it?
really?
Get rid of jet lag. Does anybody know? Um, Nobody knows. Anyway,
No
it's
one
okay.
knows. I mean, when I went to Thailand for the first time, I'd never been to Asia, and it took me 3 weeks. I mean, and I wasn't there for that amount of time. It was brutal. And I feel like the first night, if you don't do it right, like you don't I don't know, there's like a way to do it where if you have to go to bed when you're really tired, not wait out too long. Anyway, there's like a science to it, and
Yeah,
it
yeah,
depends on
1 day per time
1 day
zone.
per
Thank you,
time
Chris.
zone.
Yes, that's
That's
it. One
right.
day per time zone.
Okay,
So
so you've got a week-ish,
yeah,
right?
exactly, and
Yeah.
hopefully I'll be fine. But Liz, okay, I know we're like the Mutual Admiration Society, but I'm such a fan of yours, and thank you for doing this with me. You
Thank
guys,
you.
I'm new to Substack, so will you
Go
follow me?
subscribe.
I don't know, what am I
Yes.
or what is that what I say? Will you follow me? Will you subscribe to my
Subscribe.
Substack?
Subscribe to
Um,
Katie's Substack. It's an incredible, incredible resource. Support her work. If you're gonna
well,
support anyone
really
in journalism right
supporting
now,
all the work, my whole team, that's really that yeah, I mean, they they're the wind beneath my wings, Liz.
and you have a badass team. Best team
And so, like,
in journalism.
we can't do this. We can't do this for free. I can do it for
Yeah.
free. I'm fine. But
Mm,
my whole team, we all need to get paid. So
yeah.
thank you guys for subscribing. Even if you're a paid subscriber, I don't know if you'd want to do that, but why not? I gotta go.
Subscribe, become a paid subscriber. It really makes such a difference. There are so many things
Thank
that
you,
we
Robert. Robert
yes.
said he's proud to be a Katie subscriber.
Yes.
Thank you, Robert. I appreciate it.
And there's
Anyway,
a
I'm
button at
acting
the
so
top.
crazy and I'm acting so crazy and weird, you guys. I'm gonna hang up because who knows what I'm gonna do or say. Hey, if you're a
Now I
paid
want to keep going.
subscriber, you can see me acting insane all the time. So hey, you can pay for this.
Pay for Katie's Ambien so she can get through this jet lag.
Okay,
Support her
I got
incredible
Katie.
work.
I
And
gotta go. I
Katie,
love you guys. I
keep
gotta go
being
because
fearless.
I now I'm all
Okay. Bye everyone. Bye Katie. Bye
bye
Adriana.
Liz. Bye. Bye.